Hello, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon. And I'm Tariq Ahmed. I'm the editor at Logistics Insider, and I welcome you all to another episode of Leaders Speak. So, in today's episode, we would be engaging with a very special guest as we navigate through the heart of the ongoing Red Sea crisis. It has been unfolding since October 2023, and these events, which are intricately linked to the Israel Yemen conflict, have sent shockwaves through the geopolitical landscape and have been disrupting the very fabric of global trade. So, since November, the Houthi militia, they have assaults in Yemen have transformed the Red Sea, the vital maritime route via the Suez Canal, into a perilous zone for cargo ships. The impact on logistics is profound, with about 90% of India's Western Hemisphere cargo rerouted through the Cape of Good Hope. We at Logistics Insider have been closely monitoring the situation and the challenges associated, which have been affecting various sectors. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guests today, Mr. Sunil Vaswani. Hello, sir. So, Mr.
Hello.
Vaswani, he is the executive director at Container Shipping Lines Association, and he has been quite vocal about this issue, and he has been speaking on this issue since the very onset of it. So, in this exclusive conversation with Mr. Vaswani, what we aim to do is we aim to unravel the true impact of the Red Sea situation, from the substantial rise in freight costs up to sixfold in some cases, to the consequential delays in consignments and the intricate web of challenges faced by industries such as chemical, plastics, petrochemicals, and so on. So, our discussion promises to provide a comprehensive understanding of this multifaceted consequences. So, join us as we explore the complexities of the crisis and its far reaching implications on global trade, regional economies, and the intricate web of international relations right here on Logistics Insider. So, Mr. Vaswani, can we begin?
Sure. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to you and to our viewers. And I'm here right now, so you can start shooting. Thank you.
Sure. So, first of all, sir, this is a very dynamic situation. It has been unfolding since the past 2 3 months, and things have been changing overnight. So, like we were discussing right before this interview, since we actually began planning this interview, since then and until today things have changed so drastically. So, I mean, sir, so how can you elaborate on the specific challenges and disruptions that is being faced by container shipping lines due to this issue and the subsequent rerouting of the cargo through the Cape of Good Hope?
Right. So, at the outset, let me say that let's not deny the fact that we are all living under very challenging circumstances.
Right.
We barely got out of the COVID situation, where, of course, the shipping lines, as you know, did everything possible to help the situation and keep the supply chains moving. And now we've landed ourselves into another situation. In the sense, the world has landed itself into another situation. Now, in such a situation, there is no point panicking. The point is how all of us get together and handle the situation. Be it the shipping lines, be it the trade, be it the government, we are all in it together. So, to start off first, I would say that, if I may break this down a little bit, for imports and exports. On the import front, as far as the containerized cargo is concerned, most of it, I would say about 60% of it, comes in through from the Asia Pacific region. So, as far as that is concerned, we are relatively okay because, of course, the ships don't have to pass through the Suez Canal. So, our imports would not be impacted to that extent. Of course, right now there is a little bit of ships are going full because of the Chinese New Year that's coming in. And before the Chinese New Year, it's normal every year, the cargo onset is high before the Chinese New Year holidays start. But that's normal. So that part of it, we really don't have to worry too much. What we are concerned about is the exports, because the exports essentially move to the west, to Europe and to the US East Coast. To the US West Coast also, we are not concerned much because it will move over the Pacific. To Latin America, we are not concerned. Australia, we are not concerned. So these are some of the other. So essentially, it is the US, East Coast, and Europe, which of course, from an export point of view, is the bulk of our revenue. Uh, so what we have done, essentially, the situation when it became so challenging initially, we were still trying to, see how we can continue to route our vessels over the Red Sea and Suez Canal. And even though there was a brief suspension, some of our lines were considering reverting to the Suez Canal. But if you remember, on the 1st of January, there was an attack on the
Right.
Maersk vessel, and that unfortunately changed everything because things became very, very uncertain and risky, not only from the point of view of the shipping lines, but also from the point of view of our clients, of the point of view of our trade, because their cargo was at stake. So the lines could not afford to take that kind of a risk, and we decided that we shall continue to move over the Cape of Good Hope till the situation uh, improves, or till we know, how else to proceed further. So
That's, yeah, that's something that we'll have to wait and watch. But given the fact, I mean, you said something, you picked on something very interesting. You said we have to worry more on the export side, and given the fact that India has been proving itself to be an export powerhouse in the last couple of years, I think this could be a little, could be a little blip. If it's not a big issue, then could be a little blip in the ocean. So, moving ahead, I would like to ask you, like how have, since you represent the Container Shipping Lines Association, so how have container shipping lines adjusted their operations in response to the unsafe conditions in the Red Sea, and what measures are being taken to mitigate the impact on global trade?
So what we have done is we've rerouted our ships over the Cape of Good Hope. Now, for doing that, of course, because there's an additional transit involved, so your normal round the trip voyage increases. So if I may give you an example, say to Europe, say from Nhava Sheva Mundra to Europe, a round trip, if it was taking say about 56 days earlier, now it'll take about 10 to 12 days more one way, which
Okay.
means on a round trip you add about 24 days. So
Yeah.
when you're doing that, you cannot maintain your weekly service with the same number of vessels. So obviously you need to add on ships. So you'll need to add on at least a couple of more vessels, say about two ships more at least you will have to add on. Now when you add on that additional capacity, some lines who have their own ships, or who can put in their own ships, or who can suddenly get some ships, those lines, for them it's okay. It's okay in the sense that it's still a cost, it's still a capital expenditure, it's a big expense. But for those who don't have that capacity, they have to go hunting in the market to charter a vessel. Now,
Right.
chartering itself costs money, of course, and in today's situation, the demand is so high, the charter hire also has increased. So be that as it may, the lines have, while they're in the process of going around and doing that, many of the lines have already put in some additional ships.
Right.
What what could happen is, because of the extended transit, the windows with the ports could get impacted, in the sense that because every
Okay.
line has a particular window. If you're arriving on a
Yes.
Monday, say,
Yes.
whatever. So that kind of situation may be difficult to stick on as far as your schedules are concerned. So we are still trying to do that. So there may be some sort of gaps over there right now in the period while we still while we are still adding on some more ships. But the
Mm-hmm.
services are going on. The services are going on. One
Right.
major point of distinction between COVID and now is
Yeah.
that during COVID, at least during the initial phase of the COVID, there was a significant disruption of services, in the sense
Mm-hmm.
that the shipping lines, although the shipping lines continued to bring in their ships, there
Right.
were there were challenges in port operations because, of course, of the lockdown.
Yes.
There
Yeah.
were challenges as far as transportation from the port is concerned, to the warehouses of customers, or to the CFSs. There were challenges as far as documentation was concerned. Our
Yes.
staff was operating from their homes, and
Yes.
we were
Yes.
all that is not there. Our offices are fully functional. The operations are going on fully. We've so far not faced a situation as far as equipment is concerned, which initially we did
Right.
face during
Right.
the pandemic. So
Right.
those situations as of now are not there. What we are talking about is a limited amount of discomfort because, of course, the turnaround time, the extended turnaround time on vessels, which too
Right.
we are addressing. So that is one part of it.
Yeah,
There
so I can very much relate to it because since you were talking about it, shipping in itself, it comprises of a lot of different, it works. It's like a well-oiled machinery. Everything, it's like clockwork. So when something fails, then the disruptions trickle down to other parts of it as well, and that's what we might be facing at this point of time. But given the nature of the situation, given since you're talking about things are still going on, so given the nature of the situation, how do you think that how are the container lines, container shipping companies, are they managing their the increased operational expenses, and what strategies are being employed to keep the shipping affordable for businesses, because it's for the businesses. So
so
what are
so
being done to do that?
Sure. So when we come down to the costs, let's be very upfront about it. Obviously, the situation is such, so the costs are definitely higher. The going
Yes.
through the Cape of Good Hope, it's
Yeah.
a very challenging situation. It's a longer transit, and then of course, because you're putting in those additional ships, there's a cost involved with the additional
Yeah.
ships
Right.
deployment, the deployment cost, the capital cost. Then there is the insurance cost because there's a longer transit, so longer number of days, so the insurance cost goes up. The charter
Right.
hire goes up because of the longer transit, because the per day charter rate, so that goes
Right.
up. Then you're putting additional ships, so charter hire for those ships. Also, the charter rate goes up because there's more demand in the market for those ships.
Okay. For
So
the charters, right?
all those costs go up, and
Yeah.
then we are adding on the increased cost as far as the I mentioned about the transit time, the
Right.
that involves also a higher cost.
Right.
Then there could be berthing delays on the way because what could be happening is that the fixed windows could be impacted. When there's a fixed window, everything works clockwise.
Yes.
When you
Yes.
don't have a fixed window, you could have a bunching of vessels. There could be different lines on the
Okay.
vessel driving at the
Hmm.
same time, on the same day at ports, in transit
Yeah.
ports. That could create a berthing delay. So that could increase the cost further, could increase delays
Yeah.
to vessels. And then, of
So that's
course,
called demurrage. Demurrage is that? Are you talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
demurrage?
that's right. Demurrage, so the charter
Yeah.
hire would accordingly go up because of the
Right.
demurrage,
Right.
and also the when we are talking about equipment, so
Right.
far we've been able to keep our equipment situation under control, by and
Okay.
large under control. But
Hmm.
if these delays prolong, then what would happen is then the equipment also situation could get a little bit challenging because what's happening is that if it's a round trip, and if
Hmm.
it's a longer round trip, it takes that much longer for the incoming equipment or incoming containers to come in.
Yeah.
When the
Yeah.
incoming containers get delayed, then the demand over here is impacted because then there's more demand for equipment which is not there. For the
Yes.
shipping lines in such situations, I'm not saying that this could happen. I'm just saying the possibilities of this
Right.
happening. In such a
Right.
situations, either the equipment gets delayed or the shipping lines in certain situations are forced on the inbound leg to, instead of waiting for containers to
Hmm.
get destuffed and load the cargo, because booking and loading also take time, a
Right.
certain part of the containers might just be shipped out empty to feed the export traffic over here. And
Understood.
when
Right.
that happens, while you're feeding the export traffic here, your cost increases again further because you're shipping in empty containers. So that is the situation. Now you spoke about affordability, the other part of your
Right.
question,
Right.
which is very important. Affordability again is a very, I would say, a relative term. Before the pandemic, the rates were absolutely at the bottom. Uh, uh, they were not affordable to the shipping lines, but the shipping lines continued their services. During the
Right.
pandemic, because of the cost involved, the rates went up. They shot up because over a period of time,
Hmm.
apparently they seemed unaffordable to the trade. But then business went on because business adjusts itself to the circumstances. So if there's a
Right.
longer transit, the buyers also will place their orders that much in advance. If there's a higher cost, today the buyers, I believe, very many of them have postponed their buying because they're watching
Right.
the situation. But eventually, when their stocks deplete, they will have to start buying. So, and then of course the market adjusts. If the costs are high, everybody recovers then, from the end customer, and the end customer is also accordingly prepared to adjust himself or herself to the situation.
Okay.
So that is essentially what I feel would happen.
Yeah. So my next question was also on similar lines only. Like I was mentioning in my intro, I was mentioning that there was certain sectors like chemicals, plastics, petrochemicals, which are getting more affected because of the mere fact that those are low volume and low value products, high volume and low value products. Unlike there are other products which they could have the affordability of getting even airlifted in some instances. But how are you? I mean, my question is, how are your container lines working in tandem with these industries to address these challenges, because their challenges are quite unique.
Absolutely. So we as Lines, we are staying very close to our clients. We
Hmm.
know the needs. We know the needs of our clients,
Yeah.
and of course, as you very rightly said, there are different commodities and different businesses that would get impacted differently.
Right.
As far as the commodities that you mentioned, and I would add on to those commodities even say agricultural
Agri
products.
products, absolutely right.
Now, many of so these kind of commodities have now started looking towards the domestic market. Very many of them. Now, I'm not saying
Hmm.
all of them, but very
Hmm.
many of them.
Right.
Some of them who cannot afford the increased cost at this point of time because the buyers also are facing the pinch.
Hmm.
As I said, that right now maybe the volumes would not be shipped or would be shipped on to a lower scale, but
Right.
eventually, they will all have to adjust themselves to the circumstances.
Right. Absolutely. And okay, let's move forward from there. I mean, you know, talking about the other aspect of this situation, because turnaround times have gone out of the window. So how are you, so any particular strategies being implemented when it comes to agri products you have already touched upon, so time sensitive consignments, any specific strategies being taken in that direction?
So time sensitive consignments, of course, we are doing the best that we can. But
Hmm.
I would like to touch upon perishables, for instance. Now,
Okay.
this currently right now, this is supposed to be the grape season, and
Yes.
and shipping lines carry a lot of all these grape shipments essentially to Europe. So
Right.
it's a big loss for the shipping lines also. It's not only for the trade; it's a big loss for the shipping lines as well because the grapes will not be able to withstand this kind of a longer transit.
Hmm.
So of course we are waiting and watching everybody. The situation is so dynamic that I unfortunately cannot give you a long-term view, because it's
Yeah.
changing only by the week, it's changing by the day.
Right.
So as we move by, we will have to continue to adjust ourselves. So I cannot give a long-term view, but as of now, those shipments, of course, have been impacted. If you're talking about the trade from a trade point of view, I
Yeah.
believe the traders or the grape exporters are looking at some of the other markets, because in every situation
Okay.
or in every adversity,
There is
there
an
is also
opportunity.
opportunity.
Yes,
So other markets like the Persian Gulf, like the Far
absolutely.
East, like China. So
Right.
those are some of the other areas which could possibly, start importing more of grapes. And hopefully, if the situation over a period of time, because the grape season will still continue till about April, and
Right.
uh, and and hopefully much before that, if the situation improves, then who knows? We could start carrying grapes to Europe again.
Right. Okay. So another very important aspect that I wanted to touch through this interview is uh, is the is the thing called force majeure. So until now, have you seen? I mean, it's something that shipping lines, they are kind of it's like something that the shipping lines don't really want to be invoked upon them. So also, have you seen any notable instances where force majeure has been invoked, and how is the industry working together to address the legal and contractual implications of the things? Let's talk about the legal and contractual implications of the situation?
So let me put it this way, force measure is nothing new. It's nothing new. It's not because we have a situation today that there could be force measure. Force measure is always there in the contract. If you see the
Yeah.
terms of the bill of lading in the normal circumstances, also that option lies with the shipping line, because if it's that kind of a desperate situation, a line has no
Right.
choice.
Yes.
So the same thing applies today as well. There's no different. The situation is no different as far as that legal implication is concerned.
Okay.
Fortunately, so far we've not had any instances of force measure, of
Okay.
invoking force measure.
Okay.
So that's not happened as yet, at least.
As yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hope that things are in control. So, we've touched upon a lot of aspects regarding the situation, and another very important aspect that we could talk about is, you know, you have already mentioned that in every adversity there is an opportunity. So, are there any emerging trends or best practices, that container shipping lines are recommending to their partners in response to the prolonged transit times?
The only thing is that I can suggest is that
Yeah.
please stay as close. The shipping lines are staying close to the clients, and I would request the clients as well to plan their shipments well in advance, because you might not really have a situation where every fixed day of the week and every week you have the
Right.
vessel coming in. Always coming.
Right.
As I said, by and large, the situation not being disrupted as such. There
Right.
could be certain delays, or there could have been a situation in a particular week where the vessel had to skip its call or something. But by and large, things are moving. We're not in a situation where we are stuck. But to make it a little more, I would say, easier for everybody, I would
Yeah.
request the shippers or the exporters to plan their shipments in advance, to give their projections in advance to the shipping lines, so that the shipping lines are aware that these are the bookings that are expected, and they can plan uh, their their uh, their vessel schedules accordingly as far as
Right.
possible.
They need to
And
make a
on
lot of
and
considerations. Yes.
helps a
They need
lot.
to make a lot of considerations, and like you have mentioned, Chinese New Year is coming, so that is also something that they need to take into consideration, and
Yes,
also which routes it is we are talking about. That is also very important. Okay,
right.
so you know as the representative of the association, how do you answer this? I mean, the Indian government and relevant authorities, how have they responded to the crisis, and are there any collaborative efforts with shipping container lines to alleviate the challenges that are being faced by the industries?
Yeah, I would say first of all that the stand taken by the Indian government is a very tricky situation for the Indian government, and I think they are handling it very very well. And as far as the trade also is concerned, it's very encouraging, because some time back, there was an attack on a vessel on which there were some 15 Indian crew members, and the Indian government rescued those crew members. So that's very encouraging.
Right.
Also, the US led uh, uh,
Operation. Yeah.
operation,
Yeah.
is doing all they can. And now I heard the news that even the Europeans, France, Germany, and Italy are also starting their own thing. So hopefully, with all this kind of things, things would come into a controlling situation sooner rather than later.
Right.
The Indian government also said that they would be, doing all they can to protect the Indian ships. I'm sure they would also be doing that. They would also do that for the container vessels as well,
Right.
which is essentially foreign, but we carry all the Indian cargo. So as you very rightly said, we all need to work hand in hand so that the trade moves on regardless.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are no two ways about it. So my final question to you, sir. I think we have already passed the mark. So my final question to you is that we have been seeing such geopolitical, crisis a lot in the past. If we talk about the last couple of years, so in the light of the ongoing crisis, or taking into consideration the past crisis that we have seen, how do you think container shipping lines should be prepared for future political uncertainties? And i mean what measures are associations like yours are taking to enhance resilience in the face of unforeseen situations like this?
See, we already did that during the COVID period. If you recall,
Yes.
during the COVID period, suddenly when the demand increased suddenly for cargo, it was
Right.
totally not, it was not anticipated at all. And not only did we keep the service pattern moving, but we added on additional capacities. And
Right.
because we have a certain strength now, because of those additional capacities that we added on at that point in time, are we able to handle the situation now? Because otherwise there could have been a total disruption. There has not been, as
Right.
I said, we have been continuing with the services. Yes, there could have been hiccups. These are hiccups, but these
Yes.
are not disruptions. So we've been able to do that. So there's been a resilience has already been added onto our system, and
Right.
we are watching the situation very closely. So I think
Yes,
that should help.
everyone is following and monitoring the situation very closely, and I'm sure things would improve, and we would be happy to take this conversation with you forward going ahead. But as of yet, that's all from my side. And as we conclude this insightful conversation with you, the depth of our conversation regarding the Red Sea turmoil and its profound impact on global logistics would be expanded, and the intricacies of rerouted cargo, the heightened freight costs, and the challenges faced by various industries, they paint a very complex picture from what I have been seeing because of the evolving dynamics of the trade landscape. So here at Logistics Insider, we remain committed to providing you, our audience, with in-depth analysis and discussions that matter to our industry. So the Red Sea crisis serves as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global trade and resilience required to navigate unforeseen challenges. So thank you so much, Mr. Vaswani. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and I look forward to speaking to you as the situation unfolds. And to our audience, please stay tuned for more exclusive insights. And thank you for joining us on this journey to dissect the Red Sea turmoil, the true impact. Until next time, I'm Tariq signing off on behalf of Logistics Insider. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.